going to take a deep dive on the area of social media and digital marketing. And I always find this a really interesting space because I can almost guarantee that everyone online this evening is a consumer within that social media side. All of us have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page. We may be on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all of the various platforms. So as a consumer, I guess we understand it intuitively what it all means and what that all looks like. But when it comes to actually being a business and being a creator of content and then actually having a good structured strategy of how to execute your business online, that can be a little tough. It's a little bit different to your approach as a consumer. So that's why we thought we'd unpack that a little bit more tonight and really just talk that through as to what that looks like. So we're going to have just a brief chat on the platforms, the differences with the platforms. We'll then have an open conversation back with Ryan, where we'll walk through some of those tricky things around how do you play with the algorithms to your benefit. What do I do? Long form content, short form content? Where do I actually do things? How do I find my audience? How do I measure all of this? So as I said, there's a lot of content for us to talk about tonight. But hopefully, as with all of these sessions, we provide some sort of value in terms of getting you thinking. Certainly don't feel that you're going to leave tonight's session with a degree in social media and be ready to take on the world. But hopefully we open up some ideas. And then off the back of that, if you would like to discuss it further, we can have a one-on-one session about that to be able to talk in more detail. So tonight we can hopefully share that very top level with you, drill down in on some of those questions, and then leave you with some direction around where to go and what to do next. So I might just quickly share my screen and hopefully this comes up okay. So can I just get a yes from someone? I can no longer see the video, so if someone can just say yes if they can see my screen.
Yes.
Terrific. Okay, so this is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I was going to say we could almost cover all of this content tonight off this one slide and just say we've explained social media and good luck, off you go. But this was doing the rounds a while ago and kind of found it a little bit amusing, but also very insightful as to the differences with the platforms. So they give the example there of a donut. And when would I be using Facebook? Facebook actually being a platform more about personal identity and sort of your likes, dislikes, etc. So on Facebook, you'd be putting in and saying, I like donuts, as opposed to something like Twitter, where you'd be saying, I'm eating a tasty donut, using a hashtag, because Twitter's all about the hashtag. But it's also the very subtle distinction there that Twitter is about real-time updates, something that is relevant to the moment, as opposed to something that would be a reflection point. So Facebook, all of us are familiar with that, here's what you were doing 5 years ago kind of flashback piece. And that's showing you all of your personal stories that you've shared, etc. Whereas Twitter is about real-time relevant news in the moment. And of course, the use of hashtags, which extend your audience through. YouTube, on the other hand, which isn't traditionally thought of as a social media platform, but certainly is in and of its own right. And you'll see some numbers in a moment that really make you realise just how powerful that platform can be. But YouTube is then more something along the line of I'm watching donut videos. So that's where, rather than text or hashtags or little kind of status updates, you've got an opportunity there to be able to share a video, and with that video format, share a much bigger story than what you can with text alone. As they say, a picture is 1,000 words, a video is 1,000 pictures. So in that format of YouTube, it gives you an opportunity to be able to have so much flexibility and ability to be able to share a message and story. TikTok, which is certainly the newest comer of the lot that you can see on the screen here. I dance and sing with my donut. So a lot of us know TikTok as the platform where that's where the kids kind of do the silly dances and on trend kind of videos. and that's certainly the case. But what we're seeing now is an entirely new element coming into TikTok, and a really interesting format for brands to get involved in that. There is a good way of doing that, and there is a bad way of doing that. And anyone who's on TikTok, if you want a really great example of a good way of doing that, McDonald's is currently celebrating their 50th birthday, and they're pumping a lot of their money into TikTok, understanding that that's where their audience lives. They want to share that 50-year heritage story with the kids through TikTok. So they set up a challenge and basically said to people, everyone knows the McDonald's jingle, the do 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 do, and I didn't do that any justice then, but I'm sure you know what I mean. But the TikTok jingle, they threw it out there and gave everyone the challenge to remix the jingle, do a dance to it, play it on the keyboards, play it on the drums. So they literally generated all these users out there, engaging with the brand, engaging with the jingle, sharing it across with their audience, reached a potential audience that it was just so much bigger than anything they would have done simply by saying 50th anniversary on Facebook. So there's really good, interesting ways you can explore using that platform if it's part of your target audience. Instagram is another interesting one. And I can certainly talk about the pros and cons of Instagram, of what it does for ego and emotional intelligence and all of those pieces. There's some grim stories that are coming out of that world of presenting everything in its best light. But that's really what Instagram is. It represents the best you, the best of your brand, the best of your product. That's where you're really going to engage through photos. And through that photo medium, you put your best side forward on Instagram in that respect. Easy way to build up followers and like-minded people on the platform, but a very visual medium that is one that should really only be played once you've got a good idea on what your style guide is, because that really stands out with the brands that work and those that don't on the Instagram platform. I've got Reddit on there as well, which is an interesting one. When I talk to a lot of businesses, they're not using Reddit, but it's more of a discussion type platform. So you can see there that discussing my love for donuts. It's a really interesting area when you want to actually bring into the narrative a discussion around something, maybe around your business or your product. You can bring it into a platform like Reddit, and if it sort of gets attached to one of those key forums, some really interesting discussion can come out of that. So I just thought this is a great example to show something as simple as the humble donut has a place within all social media worlds. It just depends who needs to hear about that donut, what you want to say about the donut, and where your comfort levels sit in regards to text, photos, videos, discussion, and target demographic. Now, to break that down in a little bit more detail, we can have a look here, because this is the way that we need to look at social media. Again, we've got to get out of the mindset of being a consumer and start to look at it as a creator. So if I'm building a brand in any of these platforms, the very obvious question is, who is your audience? How can I reach them? What are the goals that I want to achieve out of it? So this is a really good chart that I'll share with everyone afterwards. That just goes into detail on what we've got there of the top 7, and these 7 would represent almost more than 90% of all social media usage. And some of these you may be familiar with, but it's very interesting when you see it compared to each other side by side. Something as simple as demographics, for example. If you are running a let's just say a retreat for divorced women. I use that as an example because it's actually a real world example with somebody who's online this evening. Running a retreat for divorced women. If you had a look through those platforms, you probably wouldn't be getting a target audience out of TikTok. You've got a limited reach with things like Instagram, etc. But if you have a look here at Pinterest, that third one there, that's aged 30 to 49, 78% female. So you can see it's a real target audience around that area if you've got a good understanding of who your demographic is. Facebook is a little bit broader, but ages 25 to 34 is where it still has the majority of its audience. It's interesting. I talk to my kids about Facebook and they say, yeah, that's something the parents use. So they see it as sort of an older person's platform, as opposed to something like TikTok and Instagram. But still the largest category in there demographic wise is 25 to 30. YouTube appeals to all ages, whether it's educational videos or any amount of content in YouTube, has a very broad range. LinkedIn, which a lot of us are on as well, being more B2B and sort of personal branding, tends to be a lot more older people. So biggest age category there being ages 46 to 55. The purpose is really fed directly then off the back of that demographics piece. So if we look at the purpose behind Facebook, that might be to build relationships. So that one-on-one piece, it's that personal world that people are in and sharing content and consuming content on. Whereas we might use something like Twitter for more news and in-the-moment articles and to generate some conversation. Scrapbooking in the Pinterest piece is all about having pin boards and saving designs and ideas for later on. Whereas YouTube, those how-to guides. So if you're in the finance world, it might be how to set up a superannuation fund, how to access services. In the LinkedIn space, it really falls flat if you try and go in there with a brand. LinkedIn is all about personal brand. So if you're playing within that LinkedIn space, always start your story, and especially if you're in the B2B or services space, around you and around your skill set. And then obviously that ripple goes out to your team, but avoid that whole going on just promoting your business on a platform like LinkedIn. Even though it's regarded as the business social media, it tends not to engage the same numbers as personal brand does. Instagram is really about building relationships and conversation, and then of course with TikTok, very much the same thing. You start to build a following, and through the comments section, there's a lot of interesting conversations that happen there. I won't go into full detail on all of this right now, but obviously every platform has its upside and its downside as well. So looking at something like Twitter, that originally started, Ryan will correct me on this, but I believe it was like 50 characters when it first started. That's now been opened up to 280 characters, but it's still somewhat limited in the storytelling piece that you can do there. Something like Pinterest, for example, is images and video only with a narrow demographic, but it has the ability to be able to link back to websites, etc. The YouTube side, resource intensive. If you speak to anyone who has successfully monetized YouTube, they'll let you know that has taken over their life. They literally spend all of their time on that channel. So if you do want to explore YouTube and really take it to a point where you're monetizing that opportunity, recognize that you will either need to dedicate all of your time to that, or at least have one dedicated person on the team doing so. But there are ways of using YouTube as part of all the other platforms as well. Limited interactions with LinkedIn is an interesting comment, along with the limited reach on Facebook. I don't know whether I necessarily agree with that. We could probably talk to Ryan about that as well. But it really pays to have a chart like this, to sit down, and as you're starting to think through those elements of your business, where you want to get your message across and what your goals are, it really starts to stand out where you might want to invest the most amount of time, and certainly if you're doing sponsored and advertising, the most amount of money, because these are the platforms where your customers live. You just need to know where they're living, what they're doing, and when and what you would like to reach them with message-wise, and the rest can kind of fit into the stuff that we'll talk about this evening. So that's just a really quick overview on the difference between the platforms. And again, we'll go into a little bit more detail as we go along. But we're fortunate enough to be joined tonight by a gentleman by the name of Ryan Jenkins. Now, for those of you in the innovation crowd, Ryan really doesn't need any introduction. He's been our in-house marketing mentor for a lot of the startups and entrepreneurs coming through. And I know a lot of you have been able to leverage that insight and wisdom that he has, which is fantastic. But he's really, I guess, that startup guru within our community that we use as the go-to when we all have questions on this dark art of social media. So, Ryan, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Really appreciate your time.
Good to be here, mate.
Terrific. So, rather than me doing any disjustice, can you just maybe give the guys a very quick overview on who you are, how you got into marketing, how you kind of arrived at what it is that you're doing now?
Yeah, so Twitter had 140 characters to start, so you were not too far off. They doubled it because people were just frustrated not being able to communicate their message effectively in 140 characters. Yeah, so I came into marketing really young. So I started at Census, selling white pages and yellow pages advertising space to business owners. And you know, I was 19 or 20 when I got into marketing and really into business because you know, that's what I was doing. I was understanding, you know, business communication and how to get businesses to reach more customers through the old style, you know, paper directories. I was there for the best part of 10 years, worked with hundreds of business owners and also started to learn and understand the craft of, you know, communications, marketing and sales and how they kind of intertwine together. And I moved across to a company called Easy Weddings, which is the biggest wedding website in Australia. And again, working with business owners to help them build scalable digital marketing campaigns targeting brides and to a less extent grooms. And then moved into agency land. So I worked at a boutique agency in the city with a focus on education and finance, really learning how to build enterprise level campaigns with larger budgets and stronger performance growth objectives required for those more strategic clients. And then founded my own agency, which I had for the last sort of 4.5 years, helping small businesses and e-commerce providers grow leads, traffic, revenue, and reach through integrated performance marketing campaigns. And now, more recently, I'm heading up a business called The Hype Society as the CEO. And that's more of a strategic integration of performance marketing. So bringing something new to the market, you know, really fusing that strategic planning element of digital marketing with the performance elements, KPIs and goals they want to achieve, but building on a much more solid foundation rather than just pumping out, you know, digital marketing campaigns and hoping that they work and achieve the objective. Yeah, that's me.
So you can see why we call him the marketing guru. Interesting background there, especially considering you started in that, I guess, that print space, and then moved into the digital side. So you've got a good appreciation for that across all formats. So let's start, I guess, at the start of where most businesses are at headspace wise. What do I do here, right? Like, I want to get onto social media. I know I've got to build a brand. I know I've got to do something here. There's too much of an opportunity for me to miss out on. Do I just start paying for some Facebook ads and do it that way, or do I need to give it a bit more thought?
Goes back to my sort of reason for moving towards a more strategic offering to the market. I think strategy forms the foundation of starting to do something, because the inertia of not starting and the fear or the trepidation around doing social media is because you're not clear on what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, and who you want to communicate to, right? So if you knew all of that, you would be able to execute on a campaign with confidence because you would have a plan. So, you know, I would say for anyone that is looking to do more digital marketing, it's to actually start to think about and contextualize what your plan is, who your customers are, where they hang out, you know, talking about the mediums that you kind of touched on before, and thinking about where your customers might hang out. the types of content that they might consume, the major problems that they're facing, the solutions that your business has, the interesting advice that you can provide, that might be sort of written-based content or photography-based content or video-based content. So it's really understanding first outwardly your customer, and then reflecting on your business and what you do, and then formulating a strategy in some way, shape or form to be able to execute on.
Talk to me about what's happening on the back end. I'm sitting there, I'm flicking through Facebook, and there just happens to be a pair of shoes there that I was thinking of buying. And it's just that, oh my God, you know me so well, this is fantastic. Yeah. Look at through. What's going on there? What's happening? Is it just that Adidas just happened to do a post at the right time, right place, and I saw it, or what's actually going on there? Yeah.
So you and I were talking before, and if something's free, I think you said, then you are the product, right? So every single profile that you have on any social media platform for that matter is collecting data points on you all of this time. Facebook has the biggest second biggest data centers in the world, second to Google, and they've got terabytes worth of information on almost every single person that's been on Facebook for a long time. So they know who you are. They in your phone, the Messenger application itself is actually recording and analyzing every bit of audio that comes out of your mouth every single day, and also the people around you. We ran some tests last year, and we started talking about unrelated topics that we wouldn't typically speak about, whether it be dog toys or superannuation, whatever it was, and we started all getting targeted with messages that we hadn't received before. So it could only be your phone actually sitting there listening to you and computing the audio that's coming out, and putting that into advertising databases to then serve you with relevant messages. So the algorithms are incredibly complex. They're driven by very sophisticated AI or machine learning, depending on the type of system that they're using. But they know who you are better than what you know yourself, which is probably the scariest thing, right? So it's not a fluke that you're being targeted. These platforms have influenced elections, so they're incredibly powerful. They're learning every single day on how to become more relevant, and they're putting they're making advertising revenue. I mean, they're an advertising platform, right? They make all of their money from advertisers. So the more relevant they are, the more product they sell, the more money gets spent. The more relevant they are, the more money that gets spent, right? It's a flywheel effect for them. So they get paid to be relevant. They get paid to put the most likely piece of content in front of you that's going to drive the commercial outcomes for their organizations. Yeah.
So to that though, I guess I'd say my relationship with Facebook is complicated, because every now and then I'll kind of think, you don't know me at all, and it'll deliver something across, and it makes some assumptions sometimes around, well, if you liked this, you may like this, and I know sometimes there's businesses talking about like mimic audiences or mirror audiences, so they might go like off what another brand has done and just say, give me that audience, because I don't really know who my customer is, but I'm kind of going to be like them, so I'll target them. How does that look? What does that actually mean when you talk about trying to mirror another audience?
There's what's called affinity-based audience development. So you can create audiences that look like a particular group, right? So I want to target people that, I don't know, what's an example, like Adidas, that also like Levi's jeans, because I'm a fashion-based retailer that's trying to create an audience. So you can create these affinity-based audiences and make some calculated bets on the fact that your potential customers look like other groups of customers, affinity-based audiences. And then you've got lookalike audiences. So you can have your followers or people that have been to your website, and you can expand that audience by creating a lookalike audience. So you can say to Facebook, build me a lookalike audience, double it, triple it, quadruple it, times it by 10, and they'll use the data points that are like for like with your existing audience to then create a mechanism for it to be more likely that other people are like your engaged followers or active web traffic. So that's an incredibly powerful way to build your campaigns out. Once you already know who your customers are and have loyal followers, the game is then to grow that lookalike audience to then reach more relevant customers in a much more effective way.
Now, I remember when we first launched the Innovation Crowd, and I remember coming to you because at the time we were in the same office space, and so okay, Ryan, we've got a marketing budget there. We want to kind of get the Innovation Crowd, onto the socials, and it was interesting. I remember you asking me the question, which was so obvious once you said it, but I hadn't given much thought to. Well, what do you actually want to achieve, Chris? And I remember sort of thinking in the, I was ready in regards to, okay, let's go out and share this story, but you were highlighting then that whole, do we want to convert people on the spot, get them into events? Do we want to just sort of, have a brand build piece and get some awareness there around that? Like, what are we actually achieving in there? So how important is that outcome side to the work that you do online?
It's everything. So it's, without understanding, what you want to achieve from your strategy, then, I would argue that you don't have a strategy. So although you were fired up and you had budget and you wanted to launch this thing, the critical question hadn't been asked nor answered. Do you want to drive reach? Do you want to just reach everyone in the community to let them know that the Innovation Crowd is here and it's available for them? Are we looking to get direct signups, to express the interest in joining the Innovation Crowd? Do we want to drive traffic to a particular landing page to get people qualified to then retarget them into getting submissions or expressions of interest? So that's critically important. I've got a site I can share just quickly. So I'll talk about sort of funnels quite a lot, right? So the older style 3-phase funnel, I think is a nice, simple way to consider a marketing funnel. But I really believe that the hourglass funnel sort of takes it all the way and out again, what I would call a reverse funnel. So when you are building a digital marketing plan, you want to understand how to engage your customers. So what are the messages that I want them to know about me or my business, or how am I reaching out and engaging them? How am I then educating them with trust-based content that's helping move them from not knowing me to being engaged to now starting to learn more about the industry, more about the problems or the solutions that you can help them with, providing them with beneficial research-based information. So tips, tricks, research-driven content, stats, anything that's going to make them slightly more aware of the value that's contributed. Evaluation. So you want to go on their shortlist, even if that's subconsciously. If they ever become a qualified customer, you want them to be evaluating you as one of the vendors or the products that they're considering to purchase. And then it's about justification. So this is about return on investment. This is about reviews. This is about connection of trust and value to justify the purchase. And then you want to use some form of offer to convert the customer. Then you want to make sure they're using it and you're happy and they're happy with it. You want to make sure you sell them more stuff over time. So that's about retaining that connection and commitment from your customer. You want to expand their purchase or their the average lifetime value of that client. And then you want to move them to advocacy, which means that they're actively referring business your way. So that's sort of how I would consider a well thought out, in and out, what I would call in and out funnel based approach in a simple way for people to understand how to start creating content, because your content needs to be purposeful, it needs to be well thought out, and it needs to be targeting an area strategically that you want to be able to communicate with your audience for.
Nice. Just before we go through some of the questions that are here, and this will kind of segue into what we have a look at in a moment around metrics and sort of going beyond the vanity metrics of likes. but actually measuring what a campaign's doing. So obviously, when we talk about the fact that these companies have successfully, set up a business based on you being the customer and revenue from business, I guess in the first instance, a lot of startups will kind of do that. I'll call it organic, but it's a different way that you use the word organic. They'll do a post on Facebook and kind of, oh yeah, I got 20 odd likes off that, and that's good. That's 5 more than we got last week. But they're really just reaching the people who are just following there. Now, obviously, to break free of that, that's where we start to step into that paid model, where it's actually reaching directly to people, because we're not kind of breaking beyond our immediate audience by just doing posts. So typically, what does that look like? Like, is that something that, okay, there's no point in me doing this unless I've got 10 grand a month? You hear stories from companies spending upwards of $3-4 million a year for a month for larger organizations. So where do you at what point do you sort of decide, this makes sense? And is there a way of scaling a spend within that?
It comes down to that, what do you, for what you want to spend, what would you like to achieve from that, right? So if you use the average cost per click on Facebook, and let's say that's $1, right? So if you want to put a piece of content or a sales message or a value-driven piece of content in front of your customers, they're going to reward you for quality and engagement. So the more engagement and the more relevant your content is, the lower your cost per click is. So it's about understanding, if I want to drive for 100 clicks for $100, then what's the forecasted conversion rate of that investment? 5% means that I'm going to drive 5 conversions, which means 5 people are going to buy something, or 5 people are going to inquire, or 5 people are going to download my ebook, or 5 people are going to call me and make an inquiry. And it's about starting with the end in mind. So I want to achieve 10 new clients this month, right? That's what your goal is. And then it's about going, so how much am I prepared to pay to get 10 new clients this month? What's my average margin? What's my lifetime or annualized customer value? And what am I prepared to pay to get those customers into the door? And then working out a strategic approach to then have a campaign that's likely to engage your audience, to drive them to click. And then you would have a remarketing campaign that would continue to build trust and confidence through that funnel I just spoke about, to get you into the consideration and then into the engagement or the conversion phase. So it's about understanding with that investment, how do I produce content to get them through these phases, and what am I prepared to invest to achieve the goal that I have in my mind, whatever that might be.
And can you just briefly explain in layman's term cost per click? Like what does that mean? What does that look like? Do I just go in and say, I'm happy to pay this amount for these customers, or what does that look like, the CPC?
So a cost per click is traditionally known. So if you click on any sponsored piece of content in Facebook, the advertiser is getting charged a fee for that luxury of your click. So every single time you click on a sponsored piece of content on Facebook, the customer or the advertiser is being charged. That's as simple as it is. Google's the same. If you type in plumber near me and there's 4 ads at the top and you click on one of those plumber listings, that plumber is being charged $47 probably for that one click, because they know that it's a high value click. Facebook is incredibly economical. So is Instagram, because there's a lot of eyeballs that are still available. It's still underutilized, in my opinion. Like, every single business should be using sponsored content on Facebook in some way, shape, or form. Even if it's $10 a week, you can reach another 1,000 or 2,000 sets of eyeballs for literally not much money.
Nice, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a tick. I just want to visit some of the questions here. Jenny, you asked a question on is Quora much different from Reddit? I must admit, personally, I don't use Quora a lot. I'm not on Reddit a whole lot. Occasionally, do you have any insight to share there, Ryan?
Yeah, so Quora is a knowledge base, let's call it, right? Where Reddit's more of a blog, a thread-based blog platform. So Quora's where people almost like Wikipedia, but a slightly different version where you go to get questions to answers and the community is driving those answers.
Got it.
Where Reddit is a blog, people of influence will write topics and they'll get a bunch of comments underneath their blog talking about the same sort of topical information. Then they can start sub-threads to then break off.
We had Feel Good Buyers ask, kindly suggest how can new startups boost tweets or Twitter posts initially?
I need some more context.
So I think they're in the context of somebody without a large following or audience is doing a tweet and they want that tweet to reach more eyeballs. Is there a way of boosting that that you're aware of?
Yeah, Twitter.
Yeah,
Twitter has an advertising platform as well. So
it's an advertising thing.
Yeah, how many
Digital marketing.
Yeah, how many people?
Obviously.
I think your microphone's on, DJ. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
All good.
Sorry, I will turn that off. My apologies.
Twitter for Business, it has the same advertising engine. You can boost tweets. You can also develop display or what's called sponsored content across Twitter in very much the same way as what the traditional sort of even Facebook business management platform software logic is. It's about your data, your reach, your target audience, the persona, the location, and you can boost content in the same way.
We'll revisit this a bit later on, but one of the things I would say there as well is breaking free of just your most immediate people following you and your tweets on there. I'll mention him again by name later on, but Gary Vee, who is kind of the online guru, and just ask him, he'll tell you how good he is.
Yeah.
The online guru in the social space. Remember, he was talking about the $1.80 strategy, where basically in the early stages, like if you're new, doing the $1.80 strategy, which is just find 90 people a day to share your 2 cents with, and literally jumping onto all these like-minded Twitter channels, leaving comments, getting involved in conversation, putting your 2 cents in, committing to doing 90 of those a day. I've actually tried a similar strategy like that myself, and it's been incredibly successful in terms of start to get known in these circles as sort of the go-to person. Now you've got to handle that with a bit of tact. You can't just jump in there and say, hey, check out my website, or move it straight into a sales pitch. But it's a really interesting way to kind of build an audience through that sort of free reach format.
The methodology is exactly the same though, right? It's about engagement. It's about value contribution, value transference, building trust and connection with like-minded people, right? That's what sales and marketing is. Marketing is pre-sales. Sales is after marketing. Like it's the same. And what you're saying is, how can I put my personal brand or business brand in front of a relevant audience? That's just a manual way of building that connection, right? So it does work. And even sending DMs and connection requests will work. Just don't sell. Build connection, build value, give first before you expect to receive. All of those sort of fundamental sales practices, if you do them, you will win. There's nothing worse than the inbox messages on Facebook or on LinkedIn, hey, you want to buy my stuff? No, see ya. Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah, we've all had those. This is one I'm not sure on, but hopefully it makes more sense to you. How can we differentiate boot generated leads from genuine results? Does that make sense? How do we differentiate generated leads from genuine results? And it's got like on there. Might revisit that one. Dixter, if you're able to type that in again as just rephrase that if there's a spelling mistake there. We'll have a look at that. Shilpa asked, what is more important, whether in order to get users to visit their own platforms, will various social media platforms pose restrictions in allowing private websites to redirect? So I guess it's that whole putting links into social media platforms to direct people into websites. Are there restrictions around that?
There are. So if you want to do paid marketing, you need basic security on your website. So you need to have what's called an SSL certificate, a secure socket layer, the little padlock at the top of your browser. So Facebook's not sending traffic to anywhere that poses potential threats to the users. In terms of redirections, no one really likes redirections. Google doesn't like people pinging from one domain to another. I'm not sure why you would want to do that anyway. Like, why wouldn't you just send them to the destination that you want them to be at? So I don't really understand the context totally there, but yeah, there are basic security parameters that need to be set up to direct paid traffic.
And Dix has just reworded his question saying, for example, auto-generated or computer-generated likes on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can. The most common way that bot likes are generated are typically through people paying to have them, to make their profile look more reputable. Otherwise, they're typically from visitors from international locations, like a Thailand, like African countries. They're typically, when you start experiencing a lot of foreign likes on your page, that they're typically going to be bot driven likes. That's the easiest way, and also clicking on the profiles and seeing if they're actually real people is a good clue as well. If they don't have any posts, then yeah.
Rowanna's asked if there's any chance that we can have a copy of that funnel link that you just shared earlier.
Yeah,
sure. It's not part of Ryan's intellectual property of the.
It is not.
Yeah, nice. Louis has made the observation, I think, when we're talking about the people who jump in, start selling, the crypto jerks on LinkedIn. I can't stand them.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have one here from Intellectual Samurai. Purpose of redirecting different social media platforms to our own website is to give clients an experience of one-stop interaction place. So using, I guess, that funnel approach of getting them in through social media, leading them to the website, and then managing the rest of all of that through the website itself.
Sure, and then sending them through other marketing to different internal pages of the website.
I guess that would be, yeah. Okay, done. And Rowanna said thank you. And thank you, Rowanna. Okay, so again, keep the questions coming in there. If there's anything that you would like to ask, even if it's not in the context of what we're talking about, feel free to put it in, and we'll visit those as we go along. So Ryan, I was wondering, maybe we touched on earlier about the metrics. How do you measure a successful campaign? Obviously, the first step is determining what the outcome should be and what you want it to do. But then I guess you see it from the other side as a marketing company working with clients, and they're coming to you and saying, okay, is it working? Is it not? How do you assess that? And as I said, is it beyond just simple vanity metrics of likes? Is there an actual science behind measuring, is this working or not?
Yeah, so I mean, a huge part of the discovery process is understanding what their goals look like and what's the time frame on the achievement of those goals, and then reverse engineering the goals into a strategy to work out what's realistic and the way to get there, and then what it's going to cost to be able to develop and achieve. So that discovery component, will then drive a strategic plan. We will then, go into funnel development and execution of that particular client's campaign, and then we start to understand the performance metrics. So we have an integrated and transparent way of communicating with our clients, so that we give them 24-hour, 7-day-a-week access to their own sort of portal. And we track everything. So you can see with this particular client that over the last month of August 1st to 31st, they generated $88,000 worth of revenue. And you'll see that it's 3% down month on month. You know, that's probably not going to sound like it's that good. However, when you have a look under the hood and we go into their Facebook and Instagram campaigns, we can see that here in the amount spent section, that they spent $16,000 to achieve that $88,000, which was a 44% reduction in their media spend to achieve month on month, you know, exactly the same amount of revenue. So we would look at, you know, the campaigns at an ad set level. We would look at the demographics. We would reverse engineer every single post to understand, once that loads, you know, this particular ad here drove one purchase last month for $39.50. It cost that's what it cost to drive a conversion, and they made $131. You know, and we can sort that by the campaigns that drove the best return on investment, and we can jump in then and optimize all of these creative variations towards the best style or the best performance that, you know, is that we can see at that sort of micro level as well as the macro level.
Mm-hmm. So where is it getting that figure from in terms of revenue? Is the transaction itself sitting within Facebook, or?
So the transaction is facilitated on the client's website. They're an e-commerce website. They sell female fashion products. Mm-hmm. So through Facebook's Pixel, it tracks the user all the way through from the click to the conversion point, and then attributes that revenue from the checkout back to the particular ads that the customer's been exposed to. And then also, if they've been exposed to multiple ads, it gives percentages of that credit to the particular ads that have driven that conversion. So if they've seen 7 different ads, then that sale is going to be split 7 different ways to each of the different ads that they saw throughout that, what I would call velocity of the conversion.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so data plays a huge part in understanding scalable performance, right? What we're looking for are the best performing ads, so we can reverse engineer the creative, the message, the copy, the audience, all of the different factors that have contributed to that performance, and then growing out more ads that convert like that ad, right? That's the game. It's iterating constantly around the best performing sales messages, marketing messages, audiences that we're targeting, products, key products that are, you know, resonating, you know, with the audience, key you know, sales messages, or you know, so geographical areas. It's all of that insight driven data that we then use to then bet again on different versions of that creative to convert.
Okay. Interested to get your thoughts and insight on content. So far we're kind of talking about, okay, an audience and a message and a story, and which platform do I look at, and some of that's sort of making sense and coming together, and hopefully for some of the businesses online, they can start to picture who is my audience, where would I find them, what platform I'd use, how can I sort of leverage that desired outcome piece. Then it comes down to content. I've got to start posting something. You know, outside of just that simple, you know, text world, picture world, video world, short form video, long form video, how do we start that process of knowing what's the right fit for us? And I know you could easily add to that and say, well, it depends on the company, which is obvious, but how do we start to think that through? Should I just be grabbing my phone and filming videos of the product and putting it on? You should ask your customers
what they would like to see more of from you, and what their key problems, wants, needs, desires are from a business like you, because that should drive the type of content that you produce and how you produce it, because your customers are telling you what they would engage with. So whether you do that by competitor analysis, go and have a look at the best competition in your market and have a look at the content that they produce, how they produce it, what engages, how many likes, how many comments, how many shares that particular competitor of yours has had, and start reverse engineering that to then suit your business. Someone's already done it before. Like it's if you want to find it, then it's there. And competitors are a really good way of inspiration and giving you some insight into what they're doing and also what's working, and fast track a lot of your decisions by starting to create content that's similar, but not the same, but similar, with your own personalized flavor.
Got it. I want to revisit that content piece in a moment. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
Another way of starting to create content is using your existing really happy customers to talk about why they're really happy customers, and sharing, what their problem was, the solution that you provided, why that they're doing business and why they like doing business with you, because people don't really care if you say you're good. People care a lot if someone else that hasn't been a customer is your customer says you're good.
Got it. I want to revisit that content piece, and hopefully if you're able to maybe show the guys, and we'll do this in a moment, maybe Canva, something like that, to sort of just give them a feel for the differences in different mediums and content. Just revisiting the questions, Intellectual Samurais asked about, please revisit your much-quoted 4-quadrant spiral approach with a diagram of acquiring customers during the initial startup phase. I'll do that very briefly, only because some of that maybe sits in the context of what we're talking about. So just give me 1 second and I'll see if I can share this on screen. So I believe what he's referring to there is those who are going through the Innovation Crowd accelerator or part of the cohort would have seen this model that I work with all the guys, which is based around vision to version. And so this quadrant is really around, where do I even start with my idea? How do I set some goals? How do I get that together? So now this is quite detailed if you go into full detail on it, but at its very basic form, it's saying there's 4 key areas of customer, product, resources, and outreach. And what we do is really just break it down so that because we're thinking big, starting small, moving fast, we start the process by thinking big. So we sort of say, in a year's time, who will we be? Where will we be? How many customers might we have? Who are those customers? Where do they live? This starts to feed into what we're talking about with Ryan of finding that audience online and which platform to use. So we're defining that. So an example being, I want 100,000 customers in 12 months, and product, whether it's a service or a physical product itself, we kind of work out what's everything we're offering those 100,000 customers. So is it just one service? Are there a few different services? Is there a number of product SKUs? What's everything that fits into there? Then we also look at the resources needed. So it's all very well to say we're going to have multiple services to 100,000 clients, but that will require maybe additional facilitators or a new manufacturing plant or a new warehouse. So all of the mechanics behind having the business operating is what we do here on the Think Big piece. And then the outreach is the reality check. Now, happy to debate this one with Ryan, but I use a very basic science here called Factor 10. And all that really is basically saying that if you believe that you can get 100,000 customers in the first 12 months, our outreach, which is that marketing side, actually needs to be reaching 1 million people in order to convert 100,000 customers. And it's a good reality check because we all like to put in these grand numbers into our financial plan. But when you talk in the context of outreach, marketing, and market size, it really needs to be in check with that, because it's one thing to get people engaging with your brand. It's another thing to translate that into a sale and convert it across. So in the context of what we're talking about tonight, The way we break this down for everyone is that day one, as a startup or a new business, everyone starts in the middle. You've got a great idea, you've got a vision for who you want to be and what you want to do. And once you've thought big and you've kind of got that mapped out, within 12 months, here's where I'd like to be, we literally start small. So we say, right, you're not going to jump overnight to 100,000 customers. Let's say 10 customers in the first 12 weeks. And we're not going to offer them all of those services. We're just going to offer them a handful of services to trial that with 10 customers. And because we don't need all of those additional warehouse or production line or facilitators, then we only need a handful of services there. And then on the outreach side, the great news to that is if we only want to find 10 users, then we only need to reach out to 100. So at this point, we don't need to think of these cost per click models, etc. Reaching 100 people, you might be able to do that through your existing networks of LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. Family and friends leverage that, connected networks. So really starting it small on that basis. And then the idea here is that we scale that up as we go along. So once you've achieved that first sort of 3 months, we then look and say, right, now we want to go from 10 customers to 1,000 customers. And we're going to offer them a few more products or a few more services, which means we're going to need additional resources, which means we now need to start increasing our outreach. And that's where you need to start looking at marketing. You need to start looking at what does that really look like with sponsored posts and all of those things in play. And then ultimately you follow that out to its furthest point. You kind of get to that outer ring where, in an ideal world, you sit there at the end of 12 months and say, how good was that? We achieved everything we wanted to, and we actually move into a completely new format of scaling, which requires a whole different approach. Or we're sitting back and saying, well, that failed miserably. We didn't even get close to what we were doing. And this comes back to the importance of what Ryan was feeding, which is the importance of data. We need at every point that you can see a little dot here to build, measure, learn. And if you take that definition of build, measure, learn, you build it on assumptions. Maybe even with your first marketing campaign, there might be some assumptions on who your audience is and some assumptions on what sort of content they like. But once you build that, you've got to have a way of measuring that. Is it falling flat? Are people watching it for the full length of time? Are you getting the right kind of audience? Are you getting kids watching your video because they find it funny, but you're not actually getting that target demographic that you're after? The only way that we can measure any of that is to have the right measuring tools. And so that really comes down to how are we going to measure success? And then the last piece of that is learn. So build something, try it, measure it, and then learn from that experience by taking those measurements and working out what fell short. It's all very easy to say, it was just a bad time on the market. People were buying from our competitor, or it's all Ryan's fault. He buggered up the audience, or pointed in a direction. So if you don't have the data underneath, it's very hard to know what fell short and what didn't work. Now, in an ideal world, everything works. We all high five each other and we say, now we're a company and let's continue to build. But the build, measure, learn piece is so important. And I think in the context of marketing, assessing the size of the market versus what is the realistic reach you can get within that, and then playing in that target market to see what's cutting through, what's resonating with that audience. So now maybe just
totally agree.
Yeah,
I totally agree. Start small. Start in the areas that are going to most likely bear what I would call low-hanging fruit, right? Like if you can start to pick the stuff that is easy to pick, rather than build an audience of 1.7 million people and reach hardly any of them with an irrelevant message, then go small, go targeted, do micro tests with areas that are more likely to be successful rather than complicated, different audiences and different personas. Just go one audience, one persona, one, core product that's your best product that's more likely to convert, rather than, try and be everything to everybody and, try and compete with all of these different competitors that are, probably not that like you. And differentiation is why people buy, right? Like, Yeah, no, I would agree. And the numbers are kind of the same from a marketing standpoint. If you're reaching 10,000, your click-through rate is not going to be 10%. It's probably going to be more like 4%. So you're going to get out of 10,000 people, you might get 400 clicks. Out of 400 clicks, it might convert at 4 to 10%. So out of 400 clicks, you might get 15 conversions, 18 conversions, and you've reached 10,000 people to get 18 conversions. So it's probably even harder when you convert it to marketing reach versus click versus conversion.
And I would say there too, in the context of what we're just talking about, scaling properly at the right time within your business. Common startup mistake and business mistake. You touched on this at the other sessions. Be careful what you ask for; it might come true. There is no point in going out with a massive marketing campaign, targeting all the right audience, getting them to respond, and not being ready to cater for that as a business. So marketing needs to fit in proportion with where you're at as a business, which is why you'll never hear someone like Ryan saying to a startup, you need to spend $100,000, because it's actually pointless at that point of setting up a business, spending that kind of money if you're not ready to deliver on that piece. So everything is in proportion. Yeah.
You also need to understand that you need to accept the brutal facts because if it's not converting, like it's not your customer's fault, like something's not working. So you've got to use that as feedback mechanisms for improvement. You know, if your brand's not strong enough or your website's not communicating simply or the content's not resonating, then, you know, that's your feedback loop to go, well, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? They only watch 15 seconds of that. Maybe I can chop it into smaller bite-sized segments and try, you know, the 3 minutes in 15-second clips to see what is going to resonate.
Got it. Okay. Super mindful of timing. Sorry, as I said, there's so much we can discuss here. But maybe what might be good, Ryan, would you be okay walking the guys through Canva? Sort of some of the different things that you can do on there? Because I think it helps in understanding the difference of content in the different platforms as well when you see something like Canva.
Sure. So Canva is probably the #1 tool that I would have if I was starting a new business because they have created a very extensive repository of content templates. So if you under templates up the top here, you can see that you've got Instagram story templates, Instagram post templates, Facebook post templates. So if you want to post an Instagram story, you can click on Instagram stories. It'll give you tons and tons of examples. So you can have, you know, style filters, you can have theme-based filters, free or pro. So we'll just go free for now. And, you know, if you're, you know, want to showcase a motivational quote or a customer testimonial, you can click literally into any of these templates. We can click on customize this template. And it loads all of the different frames and you just double click and you can say summer. You can upload your own images. So in your upload section, you can upload your own sort of data bank here and you can replace that with one of your own photos. You can drag and drop other elements in. If you wanted to put a circle over here and increase the transparency, like it's as creative as you can possibly be. You can do it. Once you're happy with what you've created, you can then download it. You can download it as whatever type of file. If it's going to be an Instagram story, you can do it as an MPEG-4 or you can do it as a GIF, which is going to give you the transition. So a GIF, it tells you here as well, short clip, no sound. MP4 is an actual video file. You can download it in a range of different formats. You can put your logo on it.
It's been interesting watching Canva evolve because they just keep on keeping up with all the trends.
Yeah.
So something like a carousel view, say in Instagram, where you might want to have like multiple pages like you've got here. How would we download it to that format?
So if you go to
JPEGs.
No, you can just do it as a GIF.
Yep.
You can just download it as a GIF. To do your tiles. Yeah, you just download them in JPEG. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then add it in under because does the free version allow you to be able to upload directly to your site, or you do need to download it? Okay.
You download and upload. Yeah.
Yep. So I think the pro version actually has integration in with
it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can push it directly to your nominated platform. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's
on screen now. Yeah. On screen now, you've got these square tiles. And what you had up before was more
an Instagram story
style. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this would be so if you have a look on Instagram itself, you have stories. So under here, you have the top section of Instagram, which gives businesses or people, the users, the opportunity to upload what's called a real-time story, and it refreshes, in different time-based segments, like a slideshow, for instance, of your day or of your week. And then you have your tile-based images, which appear on your feed. So that's the difference between your story, which is up here, and your feed, which is your feed, your tile-based feed images.
So something like Instagram, if you were doing a post there and the goal is to sell products, so you want to feature a product on Instagram and you want to sell that product. Is there an easy way to kind of explain the difference between transactions that live on the site versus transactions on your site?
So Instagram and Facebook have now become shoppable. So it's a little bit complicated. I'll simplify it as best I can. With an e-commerce site, you can download what's called a product feed. It's an XML product feed, and Facebook allows you to update that feed. The feed has the images of the particular product. So if we click on that particular post, it has this image, it has the description of what it is, it has the price, and if it's on sale, has a link to the website, or you has the ability to save it. So it's feeding in all of this attributed information directly from your website to then make your Facebook feed essentially a shoppable feed.
Got it.
So they've got, their rose, whatever that is, earrings. Yeah. And you can see,
right? Yeah.
but you can see 30% off, all, and then here's direct links to those specific products with the 30% cost saving directly on Facebook, which, removes the need to have that site traffic directed. They can essentially shop off your Instagram and Facebook feed directly, which is only new. So Facebook have done this in the last sort of 4 or 5 months.
Okay, interesting. Nice. Okay, so if it's okay, Ryan, what we might do, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, so all of your social media templates are here, whether it's your LinkedIn banners, your YouTube imagery, Facebook covers, Facebook posts, presentations, logo design, business card design, letterheads, posters, flyers, infographic examples are an amazing way of transferring value to your customers. If you want to educate, if you go back to the funnel here and you're thinking about this sort of evaluation and justification piece, the infographics are a really, really solid way of transferring value and information to your customers in a graphical, strategic way as well. So there's so much here. I reckon it's free to sign up. I'm getting paid no commission or anything like that. I would just recommend everyone just go and familiarize themselves with Canva, because it's super, super powerful.
And what I will be doing for everyone online is, with the links that I send through for this next one, I've had a number of people ask me for some of these other sites that are popping up. So you've got like Pexels, where you can find royalty-free images. You've got the ability to run like an AI bot for putting together text and sentences for what you're trying to say. So I'll include all of that there, and look at that really as a toolkit to be able to start to put some of these things together. Through Pexels, you can get videos and photos, and you can put that story. But again, it's all going to come back down to, what do you want to achieve by doing that? Yeah. You have all those tools. I don't want to get into the tacky analogy, but if I just gave you a hammer, would you know how to build a house? You'd probably need some additional direction there behind that to make it happen. So it's much the same thing with social media, but I will be sending through some really interesting links, and even just touching on one of the other questions there of, is there software that does this? Yes, there is, and I'll send that through in the links. I don't know whether you've seen one recently too, Ryan, but there's one called Tolstoy. Have you seen that? Yeah,
I have.
Yeah, so and it's an idea we spoke about years ago, but I thought it was really interesting. It's nothing to do with social media, but it's basically the ability to be able to have a video bot on your site, which can then be talking people through with options and questions, which changes the video and the answers. And that's another one that's completely free. Free for life. So there's some really interesting stuff out there. I'll include that tool in there as well. Okay.
That was a harebrained idea that obviously someone thought of as well, but that was super powerful.
Yeah. Well, when you consider where we're going with voice and that whole movement across on that piece, it's a really interesting area, because they've got voice integration in with the way that the video answers you back. So you can effectively navigate a full website with URL links through voice navigation alone. Amazing. But we digress. I digress, not so much you. So one of the volunteers that we had at the start, I wouldn't mind visiting that. And what I'd say for the context of everyone on the line, the reason why I think this is worth us looking at for the next 5 minutes is the process here of the questions that Ryan would ask. If you've got a paper and a pen, jot them down. These are the questions that you should be asking yourself when you kind of leave this this session and you're thinking, well, that was great, but where do I start? This will sort of give you a walkthrough of what that might look like. And of course, if you're not able to jot it down, you can always retrieve it on the recording later on. But that's why I thought it'd be worth going through the exercise. So we've got a few names here. I had a few people message me privately as well, saying I'd love to, but not on camera. But I'm just going to pick a name here. So John Stewart, and threw his name down there. So John, are you online, able to turn your video on at all?
Yep, I've turned my video and my camera on.
Fantastic. Looks like you're sitting outside as well, John.
I am. We have a beautiful outdoor entertainment area. And
enjoying the first day of spring.
Yep, that's it.
Fantastic. Okay, so Ryan, someone like John comes in and says, I want to do some social media marketing. Where do you start? What are you asking of someone like John?
How are you, John?
Good, Ryan. Good to see you again.
Likewise, mate. So I would start with the end in mind. So, you know, what do you want to achieve, and by when? Like, what are your overarching sort of core objectives that you're motivated to achieve?
Okay, so this is the business is called Arthritis Treatments. The flagship product is New Zealand. It's called Joint Rejuvenate, and it is a New Zealand green, high-grade New Zealand green muscle product, which is a useful adjunct in the management of arthritis, whether that be humans, for which there's most research, followed by dogs, followed by horses, followed by cats.
Yeah.
So this is my wife's business, and it is enjoying an upward trend, which it has
Right.
been for the last 10 years, without very much attention given to it, other than we have a website which has a shop. So my question is, I have a lady in the Philippines who does social media stuff for us. I don't know
Yeah.
how good she's at doing it, but the goal is to try and get more sales happening on the Arthritis Treatments website.
Cool. How many more sales?
Well, I think by the end of October, my wife is finishing up in the teaching role that she's had in the horse program at Hillcrest Christian College for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And she's interested in taking on or ramping this up once she has more time post the end of October. So look, if
How
we
much do
could
you
get
sell? Yeah, how much more do you want to sell by?
so at the moment, our gross sales a year might be $50,000 a year. And look, I think it's achievable to double that.
All right.
So it's a matter of what's the best way of doubling it, I guess.
All right. Great. So your target customers.
Okay, so half
target-
of our two channels of distribution are through veterinary clinics. We have Joint Rejuvenate for horses and Joint Rejuvenate for dogs and cats. So veterinary clinics have always been our principal channel of distribution, but about 3 years ago we established an online shop, and people can either now buy it through their vet, or they can buy it by going onto the website and buying it on the shop. So order comes in, and my wife posts it off using very simple.
Okay. Cool. And with your two different target audiences, so you've got pet owners and vets are the two segments of communication. Where do you see the most amount of opportunity to grow it? Is it directly to the consumer?
I think there's a good opportunity to grow it both ways, but probably look. That's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that, but we're pursuing both channels, and we probably need more help with the direct to consumer offering.
Yeah. Okay. And just give me some of the unique selling points of the product. So what are your claims? Verified claims, mind you.
Right. Okay. Well, the thing about it is that it's incredibly safe. So when any product has established what's called an LD50, which is the dose at which 50% of the usually rats or mice are killed. Well, in the efforts to establish an LD50 have not been successful, because this stuff is sufficiently safe that you can't kill rats and mice no matter how much you feed them. So, for instance, in one study they gave mice 1,000 times the normal dose for 14 days, and then they slaughtered them, and they looked at brain, kidney, liver, spleen, histopath, microscopic changes, urine changes. Basically, they could not induce toxicity. So it's incredibly safe. Now, it's not the most powerful thing that you will ever take. Like if you're a human, you probably
Sorry to interrupt, John. We'll just keep the answers brief if we can, so we can maybe jump to some of the other guys too. Because I know that you could definitely spruik the benefits all night. Yeah.
Yeah. So
just the headline. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's very, very safe. That's its number one selling point. Number two selling point is that there's scientific publications backing the fact that it works. It's very cost effective for a 50 kilogram Rottweiler with arthritis in its hips and elbows. You're looking at about 60 cents a day. So that, yeah, that's very cheap. And it can be used with lots of other products that are good for arthritis. So synergy and either a synergistic effect or an additive effect is common.
And how common is arthritis in animals?
Very common. It's like us. Once we get to plus 10 years for a dog and plus 14 years for a cat, they have arthritis to some extent.
Why do you ask that question, Ryan, in the context of digital marketing?
Because it helps build out the persona of the target, right? So Facebook, Instagram knows who has pets. And I wanted to know that if 30% of those pet owners have dogs or cats for more than 10 years, then we can literally focus on that particular segment of the market rather than advertising to dog owners that have got a puppy, for instance. So it's about, relevancy of message and understanding at which sort of, what's the percentage of animals that actually develop the symptoms that the product can solve.
And sorry to interrupt on this, John, but just a question worth asking, because this is relevant to a lot of the startups. When a product is truly innovative, in other words, it's not something that people are actually searching for. How do you manage that? Because when you ask the question, like how often are people looking for something like this? If you've got a product or a service offering that isn't something that people are searching for, does that make a difference on how you structure your marketing?
Definitely. So you've got push style marketing and pull style marketing. So if it's innovative products that there's no proactive people looking for, you have to present the product or service to them. So, in times gone by, you would have to buy, advertising space on the TV or the radio or some form of above the line, Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and any of those other push style mechanisms. I would sort of recommend you considering it like a mini TV, like a mini radio, because just a more targeted version to an audience that you want to communicate your specific message with, rather than having to waste on an audience that's huge. You can communicate directly. So, for this, we would target, horse owners, dog owners, cat owners that have had their pets for an extended period of time, and then start testing the unique selling points, the safety, the no side effects, that it's therapeutic, that it's effective, that it's scientifically backed, that it's as cheap as 60 cents per day. We would develop the different personas. Not sure how we would target, vets, but I'm sure we could work out a way to do that. And then, talking about the problem, solution, the outcome, and the proof of the product. What's the competitive edge? I would understand who the competitors are. What makes your particular product better or cheaper than the market, or different? And then, that's sort of, goals, objectives for marketing, who your target customer is, unique selling points, the key personas, the problems that your business solves. What your competitive edge is would form the base summary for us to be able to go away and then research and put together some form of strategy around it. But it sounds like a great product, John. I mean, I think there's opportunity there for you directly online to be able to achieve double like growth within the time frame that you're looking to achieve that with.
Yeah.
What does it cost?
Okay, so if you are, we sell it in different sizes, 100 grams or 200 grams or 500 grams or 1 kilogram. If you buy the 100 gram tub, that is $55 plus GST, and that will be enough to last your 50 kilogram dog about probably, depending on what dose you settle in on, probably somewhere around 100 days. and it does depend. You have to play around with the dose rate a little bit to see what's the minimum quantity you can get away with, which is obviously makes it cheap.
So just putting that in the context of some of the other people on the call, Ryan, that being $55, does the cost of the product and the potential revenue, how do we measure that against potential ad spend? So if somebody's got a product, say, for $10, or someone's got a product for $1,000, you know, what does that mean from the point of view of how much we should be spending advertising wise?
Yeah, so let's pretend that John's margin's $20, right? So his retail price is $55, his GP's $37.50, and his net profit's $20, right? I would then say to John, out of that $20, how much of that are you prepared to pay to sell another one, right? So John might say, I'm prepared to pay $5 out of each of the $20 that we sell, so I can reinvest 25% of our net profit, which would roll up to 10% of overall sales. So then we can start to reverse engineer a plan. We can say, all right, if we sell 100 units at $55, it means you've generated $5,500 worth of revenue. And our ad spend is going to be $550 because we're, investing, $5.50 out of it, whatever it is, right? So that's what we would then do. We would then go, okay, we would develop some audiences, and we can understand in Facebook how much it's going to cost us to reach a particular person. So, if it's going to cost us, $100 to reach 10,000 people, then we need to start going, okay, so out of that reach, what's the click-through rate going to be? It's going to be 5% forecast, which means we're going to generate 50 clicks. Out of those 50 clicks, we're going to generate 5 sales at $55, which is $250 for every $100 that we're spending, right? That's kind of how we would. And then if it's not going to stack up commercially, then we need to go back to the well. How do we increase the click-through rate? How do we decrease the reach cost? How do we increase the relevancy? How do we increase the conversion rate? So, it's all of those different things going into the strategy until we kind of hit the sweet spot for testing. And then I would say to John, all right, so the total budget for this, is $550 for the first month. The goal for the camp is to generate 5K. What's the minimum that we would be happy to achieve? And we'd probably say something like 2,500, to demonstrate some form of success, because we then know that your product is viable and can be sold online, right? That's the critical thing. If we can get people to buy it, then there's opportunity to refine it.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about it is that if someone starts buying it, 90% of the time they keep buying it.
Yeah. And the conversation I would have with you is, what's the lifetime or the annualized customer revenue? Because if your margins are a little bit skinny at the start, what are we prepared to pay to recruit a new customer? Because then they're going to buy the product 5 times a year for 10 years, which gives you a lifetime average customer value of $5,000 per customer.
Yeah, it's till the animal
kicks the bucket.
dies.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, but it kicks the bucket. Yeah, a typical client might buy it for the last 3 years of their dog's life. So, start feeding it at say 10, and then it's died by 13.
Yeah. Yep. So you've got 100 days at $55 times 3.5, which means it's about $180 per year for 3 years. Means the lifetime value of that customer is about, $450 to $500. Yep. So then it would make, we could then make an argument to say, well, we probably could pay $50 and not make any money on the first purchase and recoup that money on the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth purchase. Again, this is all speculative. Like it's up to what you're willing to accept and pay, to achieve the desired outcome.
Yeah. What I would like to do with social media is I would like to follow up the people that buy it, because I think that's one thing where there is opportunity that we're not doing well at the moment.
Amazing. Yep. Yep. So you can retarget people every 100 days or on 70 days after purchase.
Yeah.
To repurchase.
Yep. I don't know how to do it, but I'm sure someone like you does.
You can email them. You can set automated emails to go out to them. You can have text messages that are automated to remind them to repurchase. Like, yeah, there's heaps of ways to automate that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very good.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt there. Just wanted to get some key takeaways from that. So one thing that I didn't pick up before, Ryan, is that the context around dollar spend, which I think is a really interesting point. Work out what you want to invest in order to be able to get that next sale. It's a great way to look at it, to kind of think not so much of I've got X amount of dollars for marketing, but kind of looking at it as a percentage of the sale in order to get the next sale. I think is a really great way of doing it. The retargeting that you were talking about there, so understanding the life cycle of the product and when people might be buying again and bringing that into your targeting mechanism, I think is another key takeaway. So I was probably wrong about my choice of platform. I originally saw John on TikTok doing a little dance with the product and thought that might be the best platform for it, but
maybe 40 years ago, Chris.
But I'm assuming you're right with the questions you were asking. You'd be sitting him in Facebook as the preferred platform for this. Yeah. So the audience kind of defined the platform. The potential sales and investment defined the reach and the target inside of that. The content and the messaging would be based on that unique selling proposition and what the product is about. I love the word that you used, substantiated claims. We always want to be careful on that when we're jumping onto social media. Last thing you want is negative reaction to anything you're saying. You start getting conversation going the other way. It's very hard to turn that back around. So we always want to look at substantiated claims with a target audience, with the dollar spend in proportion with our ideal sales result, with retargeting mechanism that sits in there based on life cycle of product rebuy. I think that's good.
Yeah, you've got a really, captive opportunity with the audience. I mean, pet owners providing pain relief for their pets, should be an absolute no-brainer. Very easy to push the pain, with those prospective customers. Then it's the education and trust building piece. It's the case studies. It's the anecdotal feedback from existing customers. It's getting, feedback from vets as well to get that third party person saying great things about your product. So I think you've got a, really easily defined funnel there and available for sure.
Okay, thanks for that.
No worries.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Now, just super mindful of timing. Those who have sat in on the other sessions know that I'm a bit of a time Nazi in that respect. I want to make sure we all get out on time because I appreciate the time that you put in. Just very briefly, I'm going to just cover off on some final stuff with Ryan. If there's any question that's kind of sitting there of, oh, they didn't get to that or they didn't talk about that, tried to kind of steer the conversation based on the questions I was sent through earlier. So hopefully we've answered most of those. But if there's anything that's kind of niggling in your head, now is the time to ask it. Just while I have a quick chat with Ryan, because we'll probably look at starting to close this down in the next 5 minutes. So Ryan, as a key kind of recognizing, you've given a lot of information tonight, a lot.
Yeah.
Probably very hard to digest it all in one sitting as to what it means. So people are going to leave this with okay, that was great, but I'm still in the same position. What do I do? Is there a words of wisdom that you can kind of capture in a way to say, here's what I would do if I was in a position of wanting to get my business out there in socials?
Yep. I would say start to write down some of your objectives, like what you want to achieve and by when. Start to understand who your target customer is and what are their key pain points or solutions that they're looking for. Understand what your competitive edge is and what makes you unique. Try and reach out and ask your existing customers if you're in a position for feedback, good or bad. about your product or service, and start capturing those snippets and creating that feedback loop. Start thinking about, 2 or 3 different personas. And when I say personas, I'm talking about how old your customers are, where they will be likely to hang out, based on sort of Chris's platform evaluation, where they live, who they hang around, their interests, and just start building some pictures. Give them a name as well. Like, Joanne is 25 to 35. She's got 2 kids. She goes and does yoga whatever it is. Like, build out 2 or 3 very specific personas. There's tons of information online, persona development. Just Google it and it will take you through, like, I can send Chris some links, because then you're starting to contextualize, like, who your customers are, what they're potentially looking for. You're starting to build goals around what you want to do. And then I would start with the end in mind. So if I want to achieve 10 sales, how many people do I need to reach? What do they need to do? Use my the funnel link as well. Like, how do I start building engaging content? And just stay there. I want to build content that reaches people, that drives engagement. Don't worry about the click-through rates. Just try and get some likes, some comments. Start to see what your customers are resonating with. Start to build a testimonial bank or a content of people that are saying good, positive things about their experience with you. And then start thinking about some initial offers as well. So, that sort of bottom of funnel offer, if you make it attractive enough and you're connecting trust and value, then your conversion should come reasonably naturally. So you can give people a bonus or an introductory offer or something that, gets them to transact with you. So yeah, that's some sort of key things that I think people could do almost straight away.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to capture that in a little video grab, and
sign up to Canva.
Yeah. So all of those links that Ryan will share. There's a whole bunch of toolkit links that I'll put together. All of this will be in the follow-up email tomorrow, along with a link back to all the previous recordings. So you can put that all in context of brand style guide. What am I doing with my website, which I'm leading people back to? All of those things kind of tie it all in together. One final point that I'd make just before making a few mentions and then closing out is I said it last week or last session, and I'd say it again with this as well. Social media is no different to everything else you're creating online. If there's 2 qualities that you need to remember, it's curiosity and empathy. The curiosity piece is really going to come from asking those questions, as Ryan pointed out. Always be asking the questions in regards to who are they, what are they doing, where do they live, what do I want to achieve? Having that level of curiosity around every aspect of what we've talked about, that's where you get the answers from, by asking those questions. And empathy is about seeing this through your customer's eyes and not yours. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we all get caught in that trap sometimes of wanting to present something the way that we see it to be, or wanting to present something in the way that we would like to tell the story on. And as great as that can be, you really need to be curiosity, asking the question of your customers or your potential customers, finding out what it is that they want to hear, see, look at, and really look at it through their eyes, as opposed to sort of getting stuck in that that bubble of looking at it through your own. And I think if you're using those 2 qualities, you're asking the right questions, and you think everything based on customer, you'll be able to sort of put together an idea. Simply put, using something like Canva, setting up some Facebook pages, starting to build an audience, reaching out, engaging with people, all of that is free to get you started. Cut through in this world where everyone's online, 99% of usage is on the phone. So a lot of people are consuming social media right now. Cutting through is really what it's all about. So whilst you might have some success in sort of building that initial audience, etc., at some point you're going to need to start thinking about cut through. And cut through is about that exact person that you wanted to target with that story, which is generally going to require some advertising dollars outside of just your normal organic reach. So there's ways of starting this, of building a brand, of getting on social media, starting an audience, and then kind of moving it into that ramp up format where you're getting a result for the level of investment you're putting in. One of the other links that I am also going to share with everyone afterwards, because we've run out of time, there's a really interesting piece that I think is interesting in two ways. One, it shows how much you can achieve just by committing to some basic stuff to begin with, and two, where that evolves into maybe engaging with a marketing company. But I mentioned Gary Vee before. This is a PDF I'm going to send everyone, and big thing he talks about is quantity over quality, and that's a Gary Vee thing of kind of a numbers game, of just stop procrastinating, stop ruminating, just get stuff out there. Don't let all your competitors and the like just continue to take that audience. Just get out there and do something. So he put together this piece because everyone asked him the question, how do you possibly do, you know, over 60 pieces of content a day? And what this does, it kind of walks through that, his strategy of effectively how he takes one long form video, turns it into short form, takes screenshots on his phone, really turns it into different tweets, puts it on LinkedIn, changes the language a little bit, drops the swear words for LinkedIn, adds a picture when he puts it on Instagram. Really just the different ways of turning one piece of content into something that can carry across all the different platforms. What I love about the start of this, and again, this is a debate that could go on for hours, so probably won't get into too much, but what he shows there is he once did a picture or a video where he pointed the camera at his leg, and literally got 32,000 views because he was talking over the top of the video. And really the whole point behind that was, don't get stuck in this idea that everything needs to be polished. Now that works for someone when you're a Gary Vee and you've got an audience already there. But I think what this document is really highlighting is there is easy ways to be able to modify the content that you've got for the different markets that you may have. Where this document great is that it will give you a good idea on the differences with the platforms and how he goes about doing it. But the one disclaimer I give with that is that at the end of the day, we're not all Gary Vee. So if you've got an audience like that, you can get away with that kind of stuff. It's amazing to do so. Yeah, that's where you might want to look at engaging the services of some marketing companies to help. So just very quickly before we finish up, Ryan, you mentioned the Hype Society to the guys. I'll include the link in there, but basically what are you doing as the Hype Society? What's the focus there with this this new project?
Can I just give two bonus things away? I'm just trying to bring up a page. Yeah. So I was just having a look for John specifically. So there it is, Vetalogica. There's a really amazing tool, free, again, available, called Ubersuggest. It's going to tell you exactly how many searches in a particular region that are being searched on Google. So I just searched arthritis in dogs. So the monthly search volume on that through Ubersuggest, which is a plugin for your Google account, you just searched Ubersuggest SEO plugin, tells me that it's getting searched 1,600 times per month, and the average cost per click is $1.89, right? So if there's 1,600 people searching and it's costing $2, and people are actively searching for that particular keyword, then it's highly likely that you're going to have a captive audience, proactive audience here on Google that are looking for a product treatment. And then it gives you suggestions as well. So you can start thinking about different pieces of content that you can write on your website to start ranking for organic search terms, but also how could you position your product in the Google platform using ads to drive sales to the website. The other thing that you can do is use what's called page transparency through Facebook. So you can search for any brand. So I've searched for Vetalogica, which is the company that makes the products. I don't know if they're running ads. page is currently running ads. So it'll tell you here if they're running ads, and you can go directly to their ad library, and you can start to look at the messages that they're putting in front of their customers on social media. And you can do that on any page, any competitor that you've got. So if they're running a specific arthritis campaign, you would see it here. It doesn't appear that they are, but you could go back to Google and then have a look at the next one. So this is Fortunate Paws. You would go to their Facebook page, and you can have a look at their ad gallery, and you can see all of the different ads that they've got targeting their target market, to give you some inspiration around what your competitors are doing, to give you inspiration how you can potentially communicate with your customers. So Uber Suggest plugin, Facebook page transparency. It's on every page on the left-hand side. You just go down here, page transparency, see all. It'll take you through to their ads gallery.
Wow. That's a handy little tool.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So yeah, so you've got your inbound arthritis for dogs. You've got proactive people searching. You can then use Facebook to proactively reach out to the market in a different way. The Hype Society, as I said at the start, is the fusion of strategy and performance, right? It's about understanding what our customers want to achieve and by when, what's unique about them, what's their competitive edge, building them a strategic, flexible, performance-driven funnel to help them expedite results across a variety of different channels. The Society is a combination of inbound expertise and 20 years of experience leveraging partnerships. So if it's about video creation, I can connect you with someone that's going to create kick-ass video. If it's a photography shoot that you need, we can connect you through the Society to someone to produce content. If it's conversion rate optimization software, we've already tested them all. We know which one to plug in. So it's that digital delivery with our Society of connections and expertise to bring value to our customers to help them achieve their outcomes.
One of the best elevator pitches I've heard for a while, right? Now, great local Casey company. Ryan's always been very giving with our community, and really do appreciate Ryan, not just tonight, but all the help that you've given the guys over the years. It's been invaluable, and we really appreciate your contribution on nights like tonight, and then moving forward when we all finally get to catch up in person. I have no doubt there'll be a few people who will be pulling you in different directions for different chats. Sure. One question that just got asked very quickly was from Jen. She just said, does Ryan, can Ryan help with content writing and designers?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. I kind of figured the answer was yes, but always good to check. Guys, thank you very much for joining. We're literally a couple of minutes out from 9 and keen to close this down. I will ask everyone again, the same way I finish each session, the reason why we've got fantastic people with outside of hours sessions is because we've got a program that's all funded through the government. In order to continue to get funding on that, I need to get feedback from everyone. And again, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, we just need to get feedback to show that we've got something to measure on there. So if you want to jump in and say Ryan's video was blurry and Chris didn't make sense, that's fine. In fact, that'd be more appreciated than no comment at all. Yeah, but if you're able to go in there and actually share any constructive feedback, that would be fantastic. We modify these sessions based on the feedback that we get from people. So in amongst the links with all your other tools and everything else, you will have the feedback link there, and I'd really appreciate if you guys could share that across with us. There are 2 more sessions coming up in the digital or Go Digital series. Our next 2 sessions are actually now focused on business operations piece. So we have cybersecurity and data protection, and this is an area that is surprisingly more relevant than what most people think. If you find it hard to manage your own passwords and data effectively, imagine if you're a business and you're managing that for thousands of people, especially when you've got people out there who are finding vulnerable hacks into small businesses. to get that data. We're going to be really looking at the area of cybersecurity and the effective ways that businesses can protect that data. And then following that, we're going to have a future-driven event, and that's really focused around where is this whole digital space going, and not just in the context of website SEO digital tools, but we'll be putting that in a bigger picture of once you have data, how can you apply that big data to more effective and efficient business? We're going to explore things like robotics and artificial intelligence and Industry 4.0 and all of these new emerging areas. So even those who are not involved in any of those sectors, I'd really encourage you to attend that one, because it might just sort of give you a lens for where some of the opportunities might sit with the business that you're doing in the direction that we're going with digital and the future of business. So thank you everyone for attending this evening. Questions been asked a few times in the chat tonight, and yes, the recording will definitely be sent across. In fact, we've got a new link page on the website that's now linking all of the recordings and also all of the slides from the key events. I will put that in the chat now. If you wanted to open it this evening, you can do so, but I will also include it in the link tomorrow. But just popping in the chat now. And so this has all of the slides and videos from previous sessions, and this will also have tonight's session in there as well. All we ask is just allow a couple of days for our comms department to get that in. Yeah, I think that's about it. Covered all the content, got all the links there, had a quick chat. I noticed that Jenny has put her hand up. Do you have a quick question, Jenny?
Yes, very quick. I just want to say I've had a look at your site, and it's fantastic. You can easily find the recordings and all the data that you're talking about.
Fantastic. It's always good when it works. There's always that that moment of is this going to work? But it's great.
Yeah, but
Thank you.
It's nice to be able to look back on it also. Thank you.
Yep. Terrific. So yeah, that's there. As I said, most of the links for the stuff that we've talked about, I've jotted down as we've gone along, and I thought I would include that all in one email across to everyone, because I thought it was important that we do the social media one, because a lot of the tools will actually be used in that social media side, as opposed to building out a website and SEO, etc. So terrific. Thank you for the feedback, Jenny. I think that's it. I think we can close it off. Thank you once again for coming. Ryan, thank you very much again for joining us. John, thank you for volunteering. Jai, I'm sorry, I noticed you were the first to put your hand up. I was hoping to get 2 sessions in, but that's all right. We can have a separate chat one-on-one. Thank you everyone for the messages as they've come through, and hope you have a great night. Stay safe, enjoy spring. Starting to get better out there. We're still in lockdown, so enjoy it from your window. But fingers crossed, Dad will let us free very soon.